All right, welcome to This Is Jen, episode blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of hoping that we can just add in post-production. Our producer, Hallie Lord, maybe she could dub in like 56. When, like if it's, I think it's episode 56. But one thing that having a podcast has shown me is that numbering is a challenge for me. Just sequential numbering, just 1, 2, 3. It's not something I'm good at. And that's
You're
humbling.
Like A
right,
and
right.
5.
No, but see, alphabet, I'm actually okay with. So if we did,
I do both.
Episode. Oh, you can do both.
No. I mean, like I mix them on accident.
Oh, I was going to
And
say,
I'll be
like, well,
one,
I didn't.
It'll be like 1, 2, C.
I didn't know I was in the presence of greatness.
No.
Someone who can do the alphabet in order and numbers in order.
No,
I didn't know this was
I
the
mix
genius
them.
room. Okay, good. Well, good. Well, then I'm just, I'm winning at life, Shady, that I can typically keep the alphabet
1 through
in
5.
order. So yeah, we'll have to start doing podcast episode A, B, and then as it goes on, it's like AZXQ. Okay, it's probably episode 56. I'm feeling good about that. I feel like that's a good number. Don't forget, iTunes reviews are my love language. I have a little service. It sends me all the new reviews each week. I treasure each one, and I reflect on it. I'm like, what good human being is this? Like, I'm praying for this person today. What a kind soul that took the time to leave this review. So leave your iTunes reviews. Very much appreciate them. Shady Ray is our on-site producer here. And the 10-second introduction on me for those of you who are just stumbling across this podcast. Now that I am a TikTok star, probably a lot of my adoring fans over on The Talk, as we call it over there. Nobody calls it that, but I'm going to make it a thing. They're probably looking up the podcast. So I have 6 kids, had 6 babies in 8 years, which is funny because I always said I never wanted kids when I was younger. So boy, did I have it all figured out in my 20s. And let's see, I was raised atheist. I am now Catholic. My husband and I both converted to Catholicism. And actually, I don't think there's anything else you need to know. Oh, I have a comedy special on Amazon Prime that you can watch for free. I used to do talk radio. I quit that job in the middle of a pandemic because I don't like money and success.
Hate it.
And I quit it to start a stand-up comedy touring business. So that's, if you were tuning in, like, I'd like to get some advice here from Jen Fulweiler. You found the wrong podcast because this is someone who quit a national talk radio show to start a stand-up comedy touring business. I'm having fun, though, You
look like you're having fun.
I know, and, I feel like, and I tell my husband, like, sure, we had decided to, like, really place a big bet on my career and, but hey, but I'm having fun,
Good.
like, and that's what I'm going to tell the mortgage company. Like, I'm having fun.
I'm living my best life.
Tell the electricity company. Do I not seem to be enjoying myself
Look at
here? So, that's everything you need to know about me. I mean, Shady, like, I'm actually thinking, I don't have hobbies. I don't have it. I mean, like, is there anything? If I wanted to introduce myself to new people, what would I don't have interests or hobbies that, I.
You can type really fast.
Shady is at a loss for words.
You can type pretty fast, I'm sure, right?
My typing speed?
Yeah.
That's what Shady is coming up with. Okay, so literally there's like nothing else to know about me. I have 6 kids. I'm an atheistic Catholic convert. I'm on Instagram a lot. And I have a comedy special. I'm an author. I'm technically a best-selling author. Yeah, read my books. Get advice from me. Okay, let us begin with, I am still alive. I should start with that. I do live in Central Texas, where we're getting a Stone Age experience here. Like you guys, over the past few weeks, you've had your fancy rich life where you have electricity and water. That's not been as much of a thing for us over here. Like yesterday, I went over to Chapel Oates' house. Those of you guys who remember my radio show, she was our professional organizer friend who was a regular on that show, amazing person. So I went over just to visit, and Shady set me up with a big thing of water to take over to Chapel's house because they don't have water. And I thought, this is very Bedouin. This is like the Bedouin who, live in the Sahara and who, like, there's no water. Like, they're nomadic peoples, and they roam around looking for resources that, kind of genius, that they're like finding a way to survive in a desert. And I was like, that's us now. We're like nomadic Bedouin. Like, because actually I almost drove for hours to get milk. So by the time you guys hear this podcast, the snowpocalypse is done. It's 70 degrees today. Like, we're all out, people who are not me are out getting tans. However, we are still, like, a lot of people still don't have water. My kids who go to public school, we have some go to Catholic school, some go to public school, some go to homeschool. But my kids who go to public school are still out of school because, running water. These spoiled kids feel, we need clean water in order to go to school, right? Like, be thirsty a little, So they are still out of school, and it's going to get close to the 2-week mark of no public school in our area because of the apocalypse. So that is how things have been going over here. But yeah, I felt like I was like one of the nomadic peoples of the Sahara, just going, taking water to people who don't have it. I almost had to drive 2 hours to get milk. Did we ever find milk?
I went to 3 stores yesterday and found 1 gallon of milk, or was able to buy 1 gallon of milk and the 2 cases of water I got. And I took a pack and I gave the other one to Chapel.
Yeah, and did you have to fight someone for the gallon of milk?
I didn't, but they made me put my other one back. They were like,
oh,
you can only
really?
have one. Yeah,
I
tried to get 2 that you're only allowed 1 gallon of milk.
I'm getting to a point here, listeners. Even if you're not in Texas and you're living your rich life with dairy products and electricity and running water, people were seriously melting snow. They had buckets full of snow in Austin. Well, and where Shady lives. It was getting rustic in this place. Rustic. Doing buckets of snow and, like, that's your water.
And straining it so that you can drink it, and then boiling it. You had to do that.
You had to strain out, like, floating bits of debris?
Yeah.
See, this is where I've always said, because I know people who are preppers, and I know people who are homesteaders, and they're like, Jen, we can live off the land. We're going, if the apocalypse comes, which it did in Texas, we can live off the land. When I am straining debris, like chunks that you can see in the water, and I'm not even done with the process at that point before I can drink it, that's when I'm like, I'll just die. I'll just be, they talk about, like, if we had this, if the economy collapsed, that people would sort of die off in waves. First wave right here, because I'll just be like, I'm good. I'll drink wine or something and I'll die of dehydration. Can't do it. No. So that's what that taught me. I think God knew not to cut the water to my house because that's where I'm out.
He's like, we're going to lose her.
Yeah, right.
It's too early.
Right. And the Lord's like, we need, her podcast. Like, it's having
just a little while
such an enormous impact on the world. We got to keep this woman alive for sure. There were things on Twitter, like someone asked me, a person who I happen to know is from New Jersey, even though it is an anonymous account. I don't think he wants me to out him, who runs this account. He said, if Texans have to resort to cannibalism, can you still eat your neighbors on Fridays in Lent? As you know, we Catholics don't eat meat on Fridays in Lent. And this is where we are in our state now, asking, can we, I guess we don't do the cannibalism on Fridays in Lent. Now, and then someone else jumped in and said, well, Sunday is a feast day. So even if you gave up meat for Lent, which a lot of people do, they go beyond the Fridays, you can always feast on Sundays. And so for those of you who are still in regions of Texas that while the snow may have melted, you still have no food, you can't cannibalism. It's always okay on a Sunday in Lent. So don't worry about that. Here is what I learned from having just one apocalypse after another. Because, we had, the stores were cleared out of stuff last year when quarantine first started.
We didn't learn anything.
Well, you're right. Actually, okay, Shady's, you know what? Touche. I learned nothing. Nothing. I just learned I'm sick of this and I'm ready for life to go back to normal. Thank you, Shady. You know, I had this point all written up like, control what you can control. And like, yeah, let's not lie. I learned nothing. So you've learned nothing too.
And it seems like no one else did because the grocery stores were still emptied within like a day too.
Well, see, I tried to learn something.
People
And no,
flooded
you know what? So I tried to learn something. So when the stores got cleared out during quarantine, I was laughing at people. I laughed at them because I said, you know, you can always just do the pickup. Like there are safe ways to get food. We have as a society found ways to not spread COVID and get food. So I was driving by the grocery store lines. Ha ha, suckers. Like, look at you fools standing in line. I'm not going to do that. And I remember, this is way back, but in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit, they cleared out the grocery stores in Austin. This was all, and it was, I realized that every single person, I would like the mailing list of everyone who cleared out the stores for Hurricane Katrina. For those of you who aren't familiar with Texas geography, to get to a beach from Austin, Texas, it is about a 6-hour drive to the nearest beach. And that's if you drive quickly. Our speed limits are 80 miles an hour. And I thought I'd like the mailing list of people who cleared out that stuff, because these are people who do not realize that the media needs ratings. And so you know how we all have that drama queen friend who will take anything and turn it into the biggest drama. And you just learn, you're like, she's, you know, like there's always a new crisis. Like this person is always stirring up drama. That's the media. And on both sides, is it on the left and on the right? Like they're just drama queens. And so back with Hurricane Katrina, it was like, it'll be devastation in Austin. And I'm just looking at a map and being like, but I think it won't. It was, of course, very devastating to coastal cities. But like those of us who were 6 hours inland were fine. So that was when I got really sick of Texans clearing out grocery stores over nothing. And of course, if at any time there's a freeze, like we might have a half inch of freezing rain that will be on the ground for like 2 hours, they clear out the grocery stores. So I thought I had learned, going back to what you just said, Shady, I thought like, wise Jen over here. My cynicism protecting me from wasting my time again. I'm not going to the grocery store like some chump. Well, I ended up going just to get Valentine's Day stuff. So all of this craziness, it started a few days before Valentine's Day. So we got like bad weather that messed up the roads. We got like kind of a half day of break, and then it got really bad for a week. So in that half day of break, I thought, well, let me get some Valentine's Day stuff, that sort of thing. The lines in my grocery store went all the way back to the like almost to the fully to the back of the store. And these are big, huge stores. And I called my husband and said that I was about to have a panic attack. I have my moments of agoraphobia and social anxiety that crop up at the weirdest times. And there's something about being in crowded places and lines, things like I feel out of control. Like I kind of need this stuff, and now it's all in my cart. I wouldn't even know where to put it back, but I didn't realize where these lines were. So, and I didn't even get that much stuff because I was stupid. I just didn't understand what was going on. And I had that cynical mentality that I don't need to stock up on food because I'm not some idiot. And those of you listening can just imagine a sense of doom here as I'm thinking this. Joe is so sweet. Because I was having a panic attack, he said, I will come up and I will stand in line for you. And you can go home. Why don't you relax, read a book, take a bath, whatever.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, thank you. You're the best. This is the best. And he's like, I'm here. Where are you? I forgot to tell him which store I was at, Shady.
Where did he go?
He went to the wrong
H-E-B.
He went to the different one that was miles and miles away. So long story short, I did end up standing in that line, and I had one of those anxiety moments where I did have a mild panic attack in the store. I was not thinking clearly. What I should have done is said, oh, I see. We're clearing out the stores. Like everything is disappearing from the shelves. Maybe just in case. This is the one. This is the one that actually matters. I have the weather app. It is indeed looking bad.
Do we need milk?
While I'm here and I have to stand in line for a full hour. Right. I should have said I should get some milk and eggs and some bread and just some survival basics. Instead, my cart was full of Valentine's Day candy. So, like, I got that. And because I was having, it's funny, I hadn't thought through this till it happened. So the line that I got in went through the Valentine's Day aisle. And I'm like, oh, shoot, this is looking bad. And so I just grabbed more Valentine's Day stuff. When I should have gotten out of line, gone to the dairy section, stocked up, gotten some
filled
pasta.
Your whole cart with only Valentine's. Like,
no, Shady, I did. That's
all
what
the way to the top. I mean,
that was basically it. You ask my children, because so normally we see Shady pretty much every day. So you didn't see this.
No.
I came home, seriously, it was like half a cart, because I was having a panic attack and I couldn't think. So I'm just grabbing stuff off the shelves and I'm like, what are those, the nasty chocolates that have liquid cherry in them? It's like, it starts with an R.
We don't do that.
No, but I did, and I hate them. And I'm like, this is looking bad. Better get I wish I could remember the name, the Rothschild or something. Like better get those. And I hate them. No, Shady, we cleared them all out. Like, our food situation got so dire, we were actually eating the nasty Valentine's Day chocolates.
I was trying to order y'all groceries from my house, and I was like, March 1st?
No, right, yeah, all the grocery delivery, to this day, like, they're not, at this time that this was playing out, it was like February 12th, and they were like, no shipped, no
till March.
DoorDash or whatever, like, yeah, DoorDash might be back now, but the grocery delivery is not coming back, like, for weeks. So I'm there. And the freeze had already started, but this was a brief window when we could use our roads. I stock up on Valentine's Day candy instead of getting food. And so I come home, cart full of Valentine's Day candy. And I think I got one, so the pasta aisle had been cleared out, but I did see that. So, like, I grabbed a thing of, like, it was like soy fettuccine or something, like some random, I'm like, I'd better get this. See, I have these moments where I think in general, I think of myself as someone who's pretty on top of my game in terms of thinking and planning and things like that. But I do have moments where my brain stops functioning. And this was one of those moments. So I grabbed the soy, gluten-free or whatever fettuccine and Valentine's Day stuff. And then that's it. And I wait in line for an hour just to get this. And I'm kind of thinking, maybe I shouldn't wait in line. Like, if I'm going to wait in line for an hour, maybe I should make this matter. But I couldn't get my brain together. So I go home. And then a few hours later, it's like the weather's getting bad and the forecast keeps getting worse. Like, it was low of 15. And normally, again, like, I think the weathermen are as dramatic as the media. So they're always like, it's going to get down to 18 degrees tonight. And then the low is like 30. You know, they were just being dramatic. Well, for once, it went the other way. Yeah. The low was supposed to be 15, and then it dropped to 9, and then it dropped to 6. I mean, it just kept plummeting. And I just had this moment of, I think I have made a huge mistake with the grocery store. So we were already low on food. The last time we had done a real store trip was this one Wednesday. So we went through the next Wednesday, so one full week. And then as I'm recording this, it is a Tuesday. So tomorrow will be 2 weeks since the last real grocery trip. And we have not really been able to stock up because of the food shortages. So we have been able to get some groceries now. You can find some pasta and stuff. So, I mean, we're fine. But the last time we could do like a regular first world grocery trip where you get the things that, like, they have ground beef, that they have milk, that sort of thing. It is now fully 2 weeks ago. But we ended up going 10 or 11 days with only what we had previously had in the house and my Valentine's Day candy haul. And keep in mind, we have a family of 8 and some of my kids are teens. And for the first time in my life, I mean, I knew no one was going to starve to death, but it was like, okay, this is very different, that there's no asking what we feel like eating tonight. Like, it is,
this is dinner.
Here is a can of refried beans. It expired a month ago, but I don't think they really mean that. Yeah, and these chips are a little bit stale, but it's nacho night, and we don't have cheese. But we're smothering these refried beans over chips, and that's what we're eating tonight. And And see, that should have also been a lesson to me of like being grateful for our first world life. And it was just annoying, frankly. And another lesson I didn't learn. But to Shady's point, I thought I had learned the lesson about like I'm the cool kid who doesn't stand in line at the grocery store. I'm not the one who clears out shelves because I'm like, hey fools, this is going to pass in 2 days. You're all wasting your time at the store. Well, I got my just desserts, no pun intended. I was wrong. We should have stocked up at the store. It actually mattered this time. So to Shady's point, I learned nothing. I learned literally nothing from that experience. So, no, but if I took away one lesson, actually, this goes back to on Instagram stories. One of my dear friends, amazing person, Julie Lyles Carr. She's an author. She's amazing. She has 8 kids. She's been in media forever. She was laughing about how I was on Instagram stories through the snowpocalypse with food shortages, just electricity, water, all these issues. But my makeup was done to the nines every day. Hair and makeup every day. Did you see that on Instagram stories?
I was like, how is she doing
Yeah, and I never addressed it. I would just get on stories like full hair and makeup. And I was wondering, like, I wonder if anyone notices this. Cause, like, I will say, my makeup is, it's
on point.
It's on point today. And so it was the funniest thing. She did a comparison of like herself in a hat. She's a drop dead gorgeous woman, but she intentionally found a picture where like it was an unflattering picture. And she was like comparing herself like with a cap on and like not even looking at the camera to like me looking glam. And so the answer to that is that, remember, you know what? In my last prescient podcast, right before the snowpocalypse, the wisdom that you get on this podcast cannot possibly be overstated. Right before the snowpocalypse, it's like I had psychic powers because the title of the most recent episode, which I believe is 55, but again, we've established that I don't know how to number things. I think it's episode 55. The title was Change It or Choose It. Remember when I was dropping that wisdom, Shady?
Yeah.
I put that on a Pinterest. Pin that to your Pinterest. Change it or choose it. Meaning, you will save yourself so much anxiety if you look around and at the things that you're stressed at and say, can I change this? And if the answer is no, pretend like you chose it. Do a little thought exercise. Great. Well, I wanted a pandemic, just what the doctor ordered, which sounds silly, but it helps you relieve anxiety to pretend that you chose it, to stop resisting the things that you absolutely cannot change. So that was the mind-boggling wisdom I was hitting you guys with before the snowpocalypse. And so I lived that out during the situation because there were so many things to be anxious about during this time. And I just did that practice of saying change it or choose it, meaning what are the things that I can change? I'll change those. But the things I can't, I will just accept and try to make the best of it. So, did I want to have roads that we could drive on? Did I want to have food? Did I want to have electricity? It doesn't matter. Like it is what is. And one of the things I realized is that by choosing the situation, so to speak, it put me in a mindset of just being able to have fun within it. And I realized, okay, well, now that I can't do anything, I mean, our cars were so snowed in, we have these minivans that are very low to the ground. And I mean, if our lives depended on it, we could not have moved these cars because of the way the roads were. And I thought, well, I can't go to the store. I can't leave this house. Like, it's too cold to go outside. It was like 9 degrees outside. We're constantly worried about pipes bursting, but we'd done everything we could do. And so now you just sit there and wait. Will you hear the sound of water flowing and be like, well, that's $20,000 that we'll have to figure out there. And so there was a temptation to be massively anxious. And I thought, well, I mean, one of the things now that I have all this free time is I have always wanted to be better at blending eyeshadow. This is, it's good to have goals, Shady. This has been a goal in my life. I'm sick of having muddy looking eyeshadow. I'm sick of it. And all these little YouTube stars, their shadow is like, it's like a Bob Ross painting. It's so perfect and blended.
It's rude.
And it's always been killing me. So every day I was like, you know what? For once, like if I want to take a full hour to mess around with my makeup, I actually can now. There's nothing else I even could be doing right now. And so and that's what I did. Like I would spend a full hour at least, sometimes more, on hair and makeup. And it ended up being a very soothing thing. And when I would just walk around the house dressed up, hair and makeup done as if I were about to give a keynote speech in front of thousands, honestly, it made me feel better about the situation, which is so vain,
at least I'm not.
yes, I'm just watching an apocalypse play out in front of our lives. Our pipes might all burst and like flood our house at any minute, but my hair is, and I should lie and say that it didn't matter that much, but it actually did.
It did.
It really did. And it made a difference. So that is my tip to you, even if you don't live in Texas, the uncertainty that we all live in, evidently it never ends. We thought that we had hope for 2021. We don't now. We realize that we just live in a constant state of uncertainty and chaos. And as someone who people who were hit by the storm, I think really feel like this is getting to be a lot. Like that, we were just kind of thinking we might be moving on at some point, like that it's on the horizon that we could move on from COVID, and now this. And I think, it really felt like a lot to have a different kind of apocalypse. Get some variety. Like we had a viral apocalypse, but now we have a snow apocalypse. So I think that is one thing that we can all remember as we continue to live in uncertain times. Control what you can control, and don't try to go beyond that. Don't try to control the things you can't control. And then just look at it like, okay, what I can do is I can do my makeup. And that's a small thing.
Oh my goodness.
But I can control
Love it.
Yeah, and I know not everyone's into makeup. So maybe for you it's like baking bread. Maybe for you it's something totally different. But find those small things that you can control. The other thing is, I also used my time to do my sketches that I do on social media, and that's also in the spirit of like create what you can create, whether it's a fire makeup look or a sketch video. And I talked on another episode about how I had this big plan to do stand-up comedy touring. It's why I quit my job to do stand-up comedy full-time. Obviously, that has not worked out with the pandemic, but I realized I had this great, really cool moment where these sketches that you guys see me doing on, I think of Instagram as my primary platform, but I put them other places as well. This is stand-up comedy. This is the new way to do stand-up comedy. I take the same insight that I would do if I were performing for you in your city at a theater doing stand-up comedy, and I put on a ridiculous wig, and I convey that same insight through sketches. So I was talking about that in another episode, that when it seems like a dream is ending and it's beyond your control, or at least temporarily ending, just make sure that there's not some other way to live that dream. Like I really thought, like I was very, maybe it was on Patreon that I was talking about this. We do, as you know, there's a second podcast. It's more intimate. It's the like my secrets, what's really going on in my life. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Maybe it was Patreon that I was talking about this, but
I think so.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was actually. And I, of course, don't know what episode number that was, but it was I think it was in January that I was talking about this. So join Patreon, look at the January episodes of that podcast. And I was saying that when something ends for you, it seems like an opportunity is either ending or on hold for a very long time. Make sure that there is not some other way for you to live that opportunity that you are resisting. One of the things I didn't add to that is I realized the reason it took me a while to realize that social media sketches are the same thing as stand-up is because they are more terrifying. They're more risky to your ego. If I go down to an Austin comedy club and I do stand-up comedy and I bomb, Well, the only people who will ever know about it are the people who were in that room. Or if on my stand-up comedy tour, luckily all the shows were amazing, but let's say I'd had a bad show and the comedy didn't work out and I bombed. The only people who would ever know are the people in that room. But if you bomb on social media, everybody sees it. And I don't typically delete stuff. So like it is sitting out there for everyone to see that bombed. And so, you know, I was in this kind of crisis period where I was asking God, like, why would you have me learn the art of stand-up comedy if you knew a pandemic was coming and I wouldn't be able to do stand-up comedy touring? Like, I spent all of this time truly learning the art form. There are other people who had a public presence and went into quote-unquote stand-up comedy touring. But if you, like people I would know from the social media world or other radio hosts, and you'd go to their shows and this is not stand-up comedy. It's amusing stories from their personal life. They're kind of riffing, talking about some things that are sort of funny. Lovely shows, but not stand-up comedy. And that's not what I did. I very much said, I'm doing this for real. I will go down to the real comedy clubs. I will perform in front of people who have never heard my name because this is the art form that I feel called to practice and to get very good at. And it is its own very specific art form. And I've done writing, I've done radio, I don't know, I've done a lot of stuff. And I'm programming, which I consider an art form. Nothing even touches stand-up comedy in terms of difficulty. It is, I truly believe it is one of the absolute most difficult things that you can possibly ever do. And so it was not easy to get good at it. And as soon as I get good at it and have a sold out tour, pandemic. Like, you know, it's very hard for me not to fixate on that timing. And so, and I was frustrated, like, God, why would you, because I've also said before, I've gone into this mostly on Patreon, but I've said it here. I felt called, it felt like it was like a God thing that I got into this in the first place. It never felt like it was me personally choosing to do stand-up comedy. And I know this is insane, and if you've heard the other comedians who I listen to when I'm down at this clubs, you'd be very surprised to hear that I credit God with this decision. I think God maybe, doesn't listen to some of the other sets at these clubs.
He's like, la, la, la,
Yeah, you're right. La, 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 la. Yeah, one of the comedians joked that they're like, this comedy club, we put a lead dome on the roof so that God can't see what's happening in here.
So
I was like, yeah, that's about right, guys, with some of the filthy material you guys do. So, I know that it sounds strange, but I maintain it was a God thing that I got into this in the first place. And so I was curious, Shady. I was curious as to why it would be like if God had you learn to be a painter and like actually get good at it. And people are like, wow, your paintings are amazing. And I'd like to buy them. And this is incredible. And then where am I going with this analogy? Painting is outlawed. Like, what could happen that would make painting not a thing? Yeah, painting is, when I started this analogy, I'm like,
no more.
Wait,
what if,
how could you analogize that to theaters being shut down due to a pandemic? I don't know. A dictator comes into this country and is like, you know what I'm about? I hate painting, and I'm outlawing it. No more painting for you people. So that's this very problematic analogy is, that's how it felt, getting good at stand-up comedy and then having it all shut down. And so I was, just wondering, hey, Lord, just curious. I'm just curious. I'm not, like you do with your spouse, like, I'm not mad. I'm just curious. I'm mad at the situation, not at you. But I'm just curious as to how we ended up here.
Super curious.
Yeah. And then I realized this art form that I had learned, I absolutely still can use it. I can, and in fact, I can make more people laugh. I can reach people. What about people who are homebound? What about people who are disabled who can't come to comedy shows? What about people they're really struggling financially and that just wouldn't be an option for them to get a couple tickets to a comedy show? I felt very convicted that God was basically saying, this is in your head that you can't still do this. There is absolutely a way for you to do this. It might actually bless people more. It's more accessible to them. You just don't want to do it because you're afraid.
And then you're like,
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, you're exactly right, because that's terrifying. Like, man, I thought doing stand-up comedy on a stage was terrifying. Like, how about putting it out there, and then if it doesn't work, everyone knows. And then you see the comments of, like, people who are, other people can see the comments of your haters. It's terrifying. But that's the lesson, is that sometimes when it feels like something that you wanted to create, something you wanted to do, when it feels like that opportunity has ended, the opportunity has not ended. You are just afraid to take that opportunity in a new direction. Which brings us to me being a TikTok star. I want to end with the fact, so we're in the snowpocalypse, and because of these recent realizations that, that I can take all this work that I've done on stand-up comedy, turn them into sketches. I just went out. I had my daughter Lucy just film me pretending to work for the Texas Department of Tourism, welcoming Californians to Texas. You guys can see that. Instagram is the main place. If you'd like to see it have basically 1 million views, you can look it up on TikTok. So I do all this stuff. I think of it as being for Instagram. And what's funny is my biggest numbers ever have come from Facebook and TikTok. Like the one I did about the hedge fund managers, it's like at 1.6 million, 37,000 shares on Facebook. And that also did very well on TikTok. So I don't know why I have this dogged loyalty to Instagram when my numbers are always higher everywhere else. But I don't know. I don't know, Shady. Why do I do anything I do? But you can look that up on any of my social media. So it did very well on all the platforms. But man, it took off on TikTok. And that is not the first thing that I've had take off on TikTok. To this moment, every time I open the app, it's like 386 new followers. I go do something else, open it a few hours later, 940 new followers. And I mean, I started from 0, and every time I open that app, it's like a constant flood of new followers. And so, and I was telling the kids, because their school has been shut down for 2 weeks, all you really need to know to survive in today's world is how to be a TikTok star. Their father went to Yale, but what is that degree doing for him in this day? Their dad went to Yale. Their mom goes viral on TikTok. And I also bring this up. This is a parenting tip for you guys. If you worry about the social media that your kids are on, just get on that social media yourself and do well on it. And let me just tell you that your kids will have very little interest in being on it. People are like, are your kids on TikTok? No, they don't want to be on TikTok. They might see someone sharing mom's content. Like they associate TikTok now as like the thing that moms do. But it's great because anytime they question me on anything, especially like lingo and what's cool, or like they make fun of the terminology I use. I have like Gen X terminology. I just say like, well, only one of the people in this house is a TikTok star. So, yeah, I guess y'all 12-year-olds won't be telling me what the cool things are because, I'm on the talk. Again, nobody calls it that, but I'm going to make it a thing. Hey, I have almost 1 million views to something I posted just a few days ago. So I think I can call that app whatever I want. So basically pray for my children. But the real takeaway there is I would not have created that video if I were sitting around trying to control things I couldn't control. If I were sitting around flipping out about the state of the world, about, the fact that we were running out of food, the fact that our pipes could have burst at any second, the fact that our water could have been shut off at any second, the fact that most people in our area had not had electricity for a long time. We were about to be hit with rolling blackouts. I mean, if I had... Obviously, I want to make it clear, we did do what we could to help. Like we were checking in with neighbors. Our neighbors had people staying with them, and so their kids would come over to our house. I don't mean to say I was like, this is all y'all's problem. I'm going to be on the talk. I'm going to be making TikTok content. But once I had checked in with people, done what I could do to help, told my kids to, maybe there's some acorns buried under the snow that you guys could get, for dinner tonight. Once I had done that, I really did just try to let it go and say, I'm done trying to control things that I can't control. And that's when I got in a headspace that allowed me to come up with a funny comedy idea that a lot of people ended up really liking, especially on TikTok. So, don't try to control things you can't control, but do try to become a TikTok star. That's what I want to leave you all with today. All right, don't forget that I do bonus episodes on Patreon. They go a little deeper. I open up a little more about what's really going on in my life, and it's like life hack tips, things like that. I'm going to talk about the secrets to my morning routine on the episode that we're doing for this week. And I think pretty soon I'm going to do like a house tour of the way we have our house set up. And that's what I love about Patreon is that if I'm going to do a whole house tour, I do not want that on YouTube or on the internet. Like some robber being like, oh, great. Well, when I break through the window, I just know exactly what this house is going to look like. But if it's behind a paywall, if you're going to rob my house, you at least have to join my Patreon to get the layout. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Thank you to Hallie Lord, as always, for producing. Get her new book. It is called Falling Home. She has also been on fire on Instagram lately, so check her out on Instagram, Hallie Lord. Shady Ray, you will see her Instagram handle pop up as well. Make sure to follow her. Thank you so much for joining us on whatever episode number this was, and we will be back with you next week here on This Is Jen.